Hello everybody and welcome to a special edition episode of the Scarf Bagara War with me, Russ Johnson, and delighted to be joined by none other than Kenny Boxshall. Welcome, Kenny.
Thank you very much, Russ. Thank you for asking me.
No, it's the pleasure is all ours, honestly. It's been trying to be getting you on for a long time. Just didn't have the connections, but like you say,
all right.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, isn't it?
Definitely.
So we'll get cracking. I've got loads of stuff to talk to you about. So I can't at this point not say to all the listeners, get your pens and pencils ready as we dive into this. First things first. I mean, we've got listener questions as well. We've got just questions that we're gonna pile on you. But first things first, how did you end up to becoming the announcer at County? How did it all start?
Okay, Russ. Well, it was way back in the 70s. I was part of what they call the Stockport County Executive Association. That was a group of businessmen. I wasn't a businessman, but I was invited onto the group. And we used to meet once a month in the boardroom at Edgeley Park, obviously with the club's permission. The club secretary was there and the assistant secretary, Peter Lamb. And we discussed ways of trying to make money for the football club because, to put it bluntly, it was on its backside. So we'd sit round the table, we'd organise race nights, phone-a-thons. We'd write to local organisations asking for sort of donations, if you like, which was a bit futile, but we felt we had to do it. As I say, race nights. And it was all in an effort to raise some money to help the club along. I suppose you could say I've always been pretty vocal. Not in a loud way, but I like to put my points across and I accept the points that other people made. One night, a Friday night, I turned up at Edgeley Park, a cold, dreary night, and the match announcer, I can't remember who it was. I think it could have been Vince Miller, the Stockport compere. When I say compere, he lives in Stockport. He, for some reason, couldn't make it. He'd been doing it, filling in really, and he couldn't make it. And I went in to see the Assistant Secretary, Peter Lamb, and he said, oh, just a fellow, he said, Vince can't make it. I'm sure it was Vince Miller. He said, Vince can't make it. Could you do the tannoy tonight? He said, you're pretty good at talking and putting yourself across to people. I said, well, I'll give it a go, Peter. Yeah. So he thrust in my hands a tape recorder with a tape in it and a microphone and showed me upstairs to the back of the Danny Bagara stand where there was a three-sided glass box. The back faced onto Harcastle Road, and I sat in there. He plugged it in. He said, it's all yours. He said, oh, you'll need the telephone as well. So he gave me the telephone, and that was it, Russ, to be honest with you. The job was mine from there on in.
What was the telephone for?
Well, of course, we're now living in 2024. In those days, at 7:30 when the game kicked off, I was the only link into the outside world. There was no ground control. There was nothing. No radios. So I got the phone. If there'd been an emergency, then there never was one. I think it was down to me to dial 999 and get some police assistance. There were officers on at the ground in those days. But the important thing with the phone, and it was a fantastic thing to be honest with you, I took phone calls from all over the world because there was no internet. There was no BBC CFAX. So the only way to learn about what your team was doing was to make a phone call to the club. 480-8888 was the number.
Brilliant.
And the phone would ring, I'd pick the phone up, Stockport County. Yeah, it's Joe Smith from, I'm in Cyprus, I'm in the army, how are we doing?
Oh, right.
And I must say, I wish I could reconnect with her. There was a little girl who used to phone me every Friday night when we were at home, with her father stood next to her, and she was from Leighton Orient. And she was only about 10, and she said, oh, please could you tell me the score? And I'd give her the current score, and say a quick hello to her dad, and then off they go, and that would be it. She used to phone every home game for maybe the half time or as near to half time. But with that phone, I spoke to people all over the world. I wouldn't say as far as Australia, but certainly Cyprus was favourite because of the forces and the soldiers who were stationed there.
Wow.
And there was other people who'd phone up from much closer home as well, because you'd no access to half-time scores or the current score.
So would you not have newspapers phoning you or broadcasters or anything like that?
No, we did have newspapers there. The Stockport Express were represented in those days, and you might have had somebody from the Manchester Evening News.
Right.
Certainly we were represented by the Stockport Express, but we were a 4th Division team playing Darlington on a cold wind Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I doubt they would send somebody down from Darlington. They'd get copy from the Express and mix it around to suit them.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
Sorry that sort of goes on, but that
that's
is the background to it.
That's why we're here, Kenny. That's why we're here. It's these
I
stories.
just got stuck with the job then. It was just given that it was me.
Can you remember exactly what year that was then? Or are we
1982, I would say, I started.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And were you a county fan before that?
Yes.
Yeah, so you've always been a county fan, grown up in Stockport or?
Yes, I grew up in Stockport. I'm a Heaton Moor lad. But my passion was lacrosse.
Oh, right, yeah.
I played lacrosse for many years for Heaton Mersey. So, although county played on a Friday night, football didn't really come into my remit, to be truthful. But then my lacrosse career was slowing down a little bit. I was getting hit too many times and it was taking longer to recover. So I started off on the railway sleepers as a paying customer, paying fan. Then I went to the pop side, and then eventually, after a couple of seasons pop side, I bought a season ticket in East Stand as was, and that's how it started.
Right. So you said the East Stand then?
E Block.
E Block. I was going to say, because
yeah.
East Stand would be Chip Railway, and wouldn't it, as you look down on it? But we've never called it the East Stand. It's always been the Railway End.
Railway End. No, it was E Block.
Right.
Right next to the Players' Tunnel.
Right.
Was my.
Okay, so moving on to your first game announcing then, what was that like? And were you nervous? I mean, did you have something prepared, or did you already know what to say? Because your what would you call it? Your repertoire now is very well known and well loved. You know, you've been going since before I was born. Well, not before I was born, but I've known you throughout my whole county going career. So yeah, going back to it, were you nervous? What did you have? Do you have something prepared, or?
I was very nervous, to be truthful. I didn't know what to expect. I'd always felt that there was an old gentleman who used to do the Tanway. Vince only covered it, I think, whether the chap was ill. Harold, I think he was called. And it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't very good. He didn't project any sort of image. Don't want to be too critical of the chap at all. And I just, well, there's nothing I could do. I'd got the teams to read out. I read them out, answered the telephone when needed. And slowly but surely, I sort of put my own stamp on it and my own personality onto it. And it just carried on. It was just a given that Kenny Boxshall was the stadium announcer.
Right. And that's where we are still. Brilliant.
For 42 years.
42 years, brilliant. We'll come to a bit more of that later.
Okay.
Do you have, I mean, we'll dive straight into this. Do you have any memorable mix-ups, like announcing the wrong player or getting your words mixed up?
It does happen occasionally, to be honest with you. It's not an exact science, Rusty, whichever way you look at it. The most recent ones were during COVID.
Right.
We started to play again during COVID, as you know, but supporters weren't permitted into the ground. And I got a phone call off Steve Bellis who said, KB, would you be available next Tuesday night? We've got a game against whoever. We're just trying to make the experience in the ground a little bit better, like it used to be pre-COVID.
Right.
We're going to have some music, and if we can have you there with the voice, announcing the teams, half-time draw, or maybe not the half-time draw, but could you come along? I said, yeah, I'll give it a go, Steve, whatever you want. So I turned up, and of course, there was 4 or 5 games during COVID. In fact, there was a lot more. And then you're now transmitting, speaking to an empty stadium. There's nobody there. And there was a couple of mistakes I made. Only minor things, but very, very noticeable, because there's no noise to mask what you've said. So at the end of one particular game, Ellis come over, he said, "Flipping heck, KB, you made a mess of a couple of those." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Steve," I said, "I've been doing it for nearly 40 years, but you've never noticed because there's a crowd in there." So we had a laugh about that. But there's nothing that really strikes me that I've ever really made a complete mess of. I mean, some of the pronunciations now are very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But the league now supply each club, via the EFL, each club is required to produce a sheet with the pronunciations of the various players.
Yeah.
So I get that now before the game, and they're all spelt out phonetically.
Right.
So I add them phonetically to my team sheet.
Yeah.
There's an embarrassing one, which is really what we're coming to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Errors and mistakes. We were on Sky TV.
Is this a Sky TV story?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just thinking whether it's appropriate now, but I'll just get it out of the way. And it's a story very much against myself in a way. You get lots of phone calls during the game. It's not quite as bad now. But we had this Sky game, I can't remember who we were playing, and I had some friends from Anglesey who were in the Cheadle end. And it was on Sky TV, live. All the cameras are there. I'm there, of course. 2/3 of the way through the first half, the phone rang. So I picked the phone up, and it was a message. Oh, it's just the old-fashioned. It's black actually. I've still got one.
Okay.
I still have one now because I need to speak to media sometimes and ground control. I phone them fairly regularly and they phone me. Cars parked on Caroline Street, can you get it moved?
Yeah.
Fred Smith, can you speak to the nearest steward, approach the nearest steward? So, the phone rang halfway through this game with Sky, and I picked it up, and the voice said, "Could you get a message out for Drew Peacock, please?" So I said, "Yeah, of course I can," and I'm usually pretty sharp. So, "Could you ask Mr. Drew Peacock to contact the nearest steward?" So I said, and I looked at it, I'll be honest with you lads, I looked at it twice. I wrote it down, and I looked at it twice, and it didn't register. So I come out over the tannoy, over the mic, "Would Mr. Drew Peacock please contact the nearest steward?" And as soon as I said it, I thought, "Fuck, Drew Peacock." And that went out on Sky TV.
It did. That is one of the questions.
Is it really?
Yes, it is,
right.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I hope I'm not spoiled it.
No, it's okay.
But that is a genuine story.
Yeah.
And I found out it was actually my mate from Anglesey who made that
was
program,
it?
and I didn't recognise his voice because of the crowd around
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You know. And I had it on video for ages. I'd recorded the game at home. And yes, sure enough, and as you know, it went out.
Yeah.
Right, that was my embarrassing moment.
Right, okay. Are we allowed to keep that in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just didn't.
No,
yeah.
it's that's we've been asked about that, and it's fine. Yeah,
I don't mind. Listen,
Yeah.
I don't mind people taking a mick out of me. My back's broad enough to take it, Ross.
So have you
It was a good one.
have you ever accidentally swore over the tannoy? Ever?
No,
No.
ultimate
Professional.
no. I can honestly say I've never ever used the vernacular.
I suppose there's no need to, is there? There's no sort of situation where that would come up, is there?
No, it's funny you should say this. 2 weeks ago, we got a new microphone. The microphone I use has a switch on the side, which is dead easy.
Oh right, yeah.
It's in for repair at the moment. The one I'm using currently has a switch on the bottom, a very small toggle switch, and I left it on. Not last game, the game before. Put it down next to the telephone, and I got a phone call from not ground control, from the media. Steve Allerton rang me up. He said, "Is your microphone on?" So I said, "Yeah." He said, "Fine." You need to turn it off. I said, oh, okay, we'll do, Steve. So then I remembered I have a small radio as well, so I can contact them by radio if I need to. If the phone's engaged, I'll get on the radio. The radio had started to slip off the shelf where it was living in front of me, and I grabbed it before it hit the deck, and I went, shit. And of course that had come out into the media room, and that's why it said, is your microphone on?
Oh, right.
Well, that's it, honestly the only time. And it really, you know, I didn't want it to break on the floor, but that is the only time.
Brill. There's another story we've been asked to ask you about,
okay.
And this is the one that I've heard the abridged version. I don't know how many times because I've been in the company of Steve Bellitt a lot. So could you tell us your version of the events of the Jack Russell story?
Yeah. It's quite a genuine one. Again, it was so long ago. It was in the 3-sided glass box that we used to have, and we were playing Tranmere, and it was a Friday night game, and a player went down injured at the Cheadle end of the pitch. Not the Cheadle end as we know it.
Yeah.
It was just a wooden structure. You probably remember it,
I
maybe?
vaguely remember it, yeah.
It was talk about a fire. It was an absolute risk.
Yeah.
And a player went down injured, a Tranmere player. He required treatment. The physio ran on, and just at that point, and where the Cheadle end met the pop side, somebody, one of the supporters, and there weren't many there that night, somebody introduced a very small Jack Russell type dog onto the pitch, which was running around, in and around where the injured player was, who was now receiving treatment from the physio. And I don't know, I don't know what made me say it, but there'd been quite a bit of stoppage, maybe a couple of minutes, which is a long time. And I just came out with it and just said, and the substitute for Tranmere Rovers is Jack Russell. Steve tells it slightly differently. He says that the front door to the club was open on Hardcastle Road and that a dog ran in. I'm not going to contradict him, and I know he does it on his tours, on his stadium tours.
Yeah.
I've just left it at that, but that is the version, because it did happen again. You probably don't remember because you're far too young, but for some inexplicable reason, I've seen it at other grounds, not many, people introduce dogs onto the pitch. And it happened again some years later, and I saw this little dog running around on the pop side, or that side of the pitch, and I thought, oh, who's done that? And I thought, I can't use Jack Russell, I've done that one. So I thought, I know. So I said, and the substitute for Darlington is Alsatian. Bit of a repeat, but it was just makes the crowd laugh a little bit.
But it's funny though, because everybody knows the Jack Russell, but nobody knows the Alsatian one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess nobody knows. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just one of those, I just came out with it. So I just didn't want to use Jack Russell again. I thought, no, I'm not repeating lines like that.
You have to think of more to do. Obviously, you've been at the club 42 years. What would you say has been the best change at the club in your time? Because there's been a lot, hasn't there?
Been a lot of changes. I've seen lots of chairmen come and go. I've got to say I've had a good working relationship with every single one of them. They've always appreciated what I've done. I mean, I've done all sorts of things at the club. Helped the Hatters, of course. They do a phenomenal job. I was helping Eric Webster do the pitch before the Hatters were even thought about, and that's not being disparaging to them in any way, shape or form. Fitzy got them motivated, and they do a fabulous job. I think currently you've got to say the current owner, Mark Stotts. He's ploughed so much in, and the football club is totally unrecognisable to what I remember from the 70s. I was in the club Saturday, of course, and it was Tuesday night. Apologies, because I was doing Steve's job because he's in China, And I just looked round and I thought, this is absolutely, I could never ever have dreamt this when I was sitting round a table in the boardroom raising £4, £10 to try and keep the club afloat. And look at it now, you know, it's absolutely. So I've got to go with Mark Stott. There was a lot of good people before him, Russ.
Yeah.
They did the best, but as we know, finance speaks, and they didn't have the money, we'll say, that perhaps Mark has been able to put into the football club. But that's not to say that their contribution to try and keep it going wasn't worthy.
Yeah, absolutely, well said. Yeah, absolutely. On to the worst change you've seen then, because we've seen, I mean, just from I know it's not about me, but certainly the rugby club coming in was a bad one. Going down to National League North, you've probably seen worse times before my time. What would you say is your worst time from a club perspective?
Sale Sharks, without a shadow of a doubt. It was allegedly an amalgamation, and it wasn't. It was a takeover, and they, inverted commas, ruined the football club, including the pitch. They had no respect for the football pitch. They'd train on it on a Saturday morning if we were playing on it on a Saturday afternoon, or they'd train on it on a Friday maybe, and we're playing home games on a Saturday. Their staff were exceedingly rude. We lost some very, very good people whose hearts were in Stockport County as a result of that, I'm sorry to say it, takeover. I don't blame Brian Kennedy. He came in and I think perhaps he did his best, but the people he'd surrounded himself with were not best ever. The main protagonist was a gentleman called Niels de Vos.
Oh yeah, remember the name.
Yeah, I remember him very, very well. He got rid of our club secretary, Gary Glendenning. As a result of the way he was with our staff, Andrea Dawson left the club, and she'd been with Stockport County for ages. She was one of the most able assistant secretaries I'd ever come across. She was fantastic, and was Stockport County through and through, and she couldn't cope with the new regime at all. Gary went, Andrea went, and several other people who've drifted from my memory now. But Niels de Vos was the most disrespectful person it's ever been my misfortune to come across. So we're playing Doncaster Rovers away. I was fortunate enough in those days, because of the work I've done for the club, which I'm sure you're aware is purely voluntary. I don't take a penny out of the club and never have done, and have no intentions of doing in the future. But in fairness to the club, they'd always, if I was going to an away game, generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, I'd get a director's boardroom ticket and sit with the directors, who I got to know, of course. So we're playing Doncaster Rovers away. I've got a ticket, and it's the Brian Kennedy regime. I drive over to Doncaster, suit, shirt and tie, there's always the thing in the boardroom, shirt and tie. So I've got mine on, of course, and I get to Doncaster Rovers, and I go into the boardroom, and we sit down. I forget who I was sitting next to, it might have been Bellis, but it doesn't matter anyway. So we're sat having a pre-match meal, and halfway through the meal, the commissionaire comes in and says something to the gentleman to my right, who was a Doncaster, either chairman or one of the directors, and said, I've got a Mr. de Vos at the door, but he's got no tie on. He's the club, I suppose you could say, secretary at Stockport County, but he's got no tie on. And they're strict at Doncaster, no tie, no boardroom. Simple as that. And most boardrooms throughout the country are the same, Russ.
Right, still to this day? Or?
I can't answer that,
right, okay,
in all fairness, but certainly then they were.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of humming and ahhing between the commissionaire and this gentleman from Doncaster, and eventually DeVos comes in, but he's been instructed to button up his sort of overcoat stroke jacket so he can't see that he's no tie on. And that was the sort of end of that matter, really. So I thought. He sat down, he had a meal. He wasn't particularly personable, but that's my personal view. So that having been said, a few weeks later, we were playing Oldham Athletic away, a night game. I got a ticket. Secretary had made sure I got a ticket. I went up to Oldham, and there was a slightly different system at Oldham. There was an inner sanctum and an outer sanctum. And because I wasn't a director, I was in the outer sanctum.
Right.
No complaints, I'm not complaining. So I'm stood having a drink in this sort of little bar area, and there was a door that took you strictly into the directors and chairman room. DeVos turns up, and he's no tie on. And the commissionaire, old chap, probably 70, nice smart uniform on, went to the director's door, knocked on the door, opened the door, called his chairman or whoever over and said, I've got a Mr. DeVos from Stockport here, but he's no tie on. And the chap said, well, he can't come in, it's as simple as that, Fred. So Fred comes out and says, I'm sorry, you can't go in, you've no tie on. But I'm this, I'm that. I was wearing it, I'd come straight from work, and I was wearing a suit, because I did for work in those days, new career. I took my green tie off, and I gave it DeVos. And I said, you better put this on. I said, because it's becoming embarrassing now. And he put my tie on. I said, could you make sure Bellis gets it back? And I'll pick it up from the ground at the next home game. And I gave him a tie. So on 2 occasions. First time at Doncaster and Oldham Athletic. That's poor us.
Yeah, no it is. Yeah, 100%.
And it lets the club down.
Yeah.
It's the club image that I'm more than happy to protect.
Yeah. No respect, isn't it? It's just lack of respect, isn't it?
Not at all.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you for that. On to, so we're still on the past element of this interview, believe it or not. Managers, you've seen a lot come and go in your time. Who's been your favourite of the former managers? You can't include Charlie on that, but
no.
But who of your former managers is your favourite?
Colin Murphy. I got on well with him. I got on well with all the managers, to be truthful. Ace of Hartford in particular.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the managers we've had. David Jones. Carlton was a bit of a challenge. Just a bit. Danny.
What's your favourite Danny story? Because everyone's got a Danny story, haven't they?
They have indeed, and unfortunately it's one against myself.
Okay.
We'd sold Tony Hancock to Burnley. We'd got good money for Tony. And I'm sure it was Tony Hancock. We'd actually sold a couple of players, but the story is that Tony Hancock had gone to Burnley. And it's a Saturday game at home. Tony's gone, and I was doing the half-time scores. And Burnley were winning 1-0. And I think it was Tony who'd scored the goal at that time. It was certainly a prominent Stockport player that we'd let go to Burnley.
Right.
So I don't know what possessed me to do it. I'm giving the scores out, the half-times. Burnley 1, Blackpool 0. Tony Hancock scored for Burnley. The next thing is, Danny came flying down the players' tunnel. It's half-time, this. Somebody must have gone in and told him what I'd said. He come flying down the tunnel. He said, you trying to get me the sack? What are you doing? What are you doing? I said, I'll see you afterwards, Danny. I mean, it was an error. I'll be quite honest with you. But he was a particular favourite of mine, Tony. I still see him now, obviously. And it was just one of those. I've never done it since, incidentally, Russ.
Yeah. But am I right in thinking, I might remember this wrongly, and I can't put my specifics on it, but if there's a certain team that's losing, you will heighten that particular team if we're in challenging with them, or something. Like, say, if I know you've probably not done it, but say if Wrexham lost last season, you might have maybe heightened it slightly in your tone of voice,
yes.
something like that.
Yeah. Definitely. I still do that to this day, really speaking. Yeah. Although it's so busy at half time, you don't get a chance to do the half time scores, really. To be honest
of course,
with you.
yeah.
It really is a nightmare. You've got presentations, as you know. We had Starcevic the other night, Mickey Hollis. There was little time to do anything else. Plus, I'm getting 20 plus requests for birthdays.
Yeah.
It used to be 5, you'd think you were busy. 20, all right, there wasn't as many the other night because it was a night game. So it is very, very difficult. But I'm always very conscious, like when... who did we play Tuesday?
Reading.
We played Reading, they scored, they equalised, but I always mumble the score, you know, and that's deliberate, to be honest.
Right.
Because somebody said to me, why don't you say it normally? I say, what do I want to build their fans up for?
Yeah.
These are my people round me. There was a complaint about that one night because I forgot to announce a scorer for the opposition, and one of their directors complained to one of our directors, and I got a missive, you know, could you announce the scorer? So I did.
But you know what I've never heard you do, and I've heard it at other grounds, and I don't think you're this disrespectful, is if we're playing a team that say is going for promotion and another team somewhere else has scored, to deny them of it, you would never have a dig at them for nothing, would you?
No.
Because it's... No. But I've heard that at other grounds. Definitely.
Right.
I've heard that at away grounds. At our expense.
Give me an example.
It's a very good question. You're interviewing me now, aren't you?
That's what I used to do for a living.
Is it? So I can't remember the example. I'm trying to think what it is. Somebody put it in the comments or email us or something and tell me it's definitely happened, and we were all livid about it. It might have been Chesterfield. I can't remember.
Because their announcers being dismissive of our team, you mean?
Yeah. So say for example we're playing Chesterfield away.
Yeah.
And Wrexham are 1-0 up.
Yeah.
And they've gone. And it's Wrexham 1, whoever 0, and we're going, oh, why has he said it like that?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, because the job's changed a little bit over the years, really. You've got to be a little bit more circumspect than we were. You can't get away with as much as perhaps I got away with and some of the comments I've come out with.
I don't know, you've been here long enough, I bet you could get away with a lot.
I don't know. I get in trouble with the league.
I'll press on with these. Who decides what you announce? For example, this is a contentious one. Recently, the message to away fans has been a bit of a. It's been a bit of a. I wouldn't say a laugh, but it's been a bit of a chuckle on the terraces because I hear it and other people do, and they go, "What are they supposed to do?" Because it's like you say, go back round to.
Leave your seats, mount the yellow steps, and towards the exit. Basically, the way you came in.
Yeah.
Ground control give me that instruction.
Right, okay.
I'm under their instruction for that. And of course, Russ, you've got to remember, I know some of the lads and the ladies, the supporters, our supporters, they must get sick of hearing it sometimes. Please stay in your seats.
Yeah.
Please keep the gangways clear.
Yeah.
Please be careful because it's raining, the gangways are wet, the stairwells are wet. We, at every game, more or less every game, we've got the council at the game. They mark us on what's being said. So if I forget, for the sake of argument, or it's getting on into the game, Rick or somebody from ground control will phone me and say, KB, can you just give a message out about the stairways, please?
Yeah.
We've got to do it. We're living in 2024 and it's a requirement.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
I don't sometimes not that in particular, because that's a safety issue. There's other messages that I've had to give, and I think, I'm wasting the time in. I think that Cheadle will be thinking, what's he going on about? But the reason is because I'm under instructions. Yeah,
I totally get it. No, it's good. because you're doing the announcing, do you get to enjoy the games?
Yes and no. I do enjoy the games, yeah. That's the short answer. But you're always on your mettle. You know, the phone can go. You're looking for substitutions. Occasionally for a bit of trouble as well, you know.
Yeah.
I've not got a view. There's cameras all around the ground, as I'm sure everybody is aware. I'm not quite the eyes and ears I used to be. But, yeah, the short answer is I do enjoy the games. Substitutions can be a challenge because right in front of me is a pillar. And if the fourth official stands in the wrong place, I can't see who's going on. I can't recognise their players. You can't always see the numbers on the backs, and it can be a bit difficult. And they've got this awful habit, and I'm going to correct this because it happened at the last home game. They put the board up, they go like that, and put it down again before I've had a chance to even look at what number is coming off. Of course, if it's not my player, I can't know every Reading player.
Yeah.
And also, they need to start making sure the boards work, because on Tuesday night the boards didn't work properly. I missed a couple of subs because I couldn't see the numbers of the players coming off.
I was getting onto that. There's a few things about that because I guess back in the day it was 1 sub, then it became 2 and 3, and then now it's 5.
Correct.
And I guess there's a lot of adapting for you in that respect. If you do miss a sub, does somebody run up and tell you what it is, and then you retrospectively say it, or do we just miss it out?
We just miss it.
Right.
Yeah, we do. The only time I did it was the Romanian international a few weeks ago.
Right.
There was a huge hiccups there, and there was a couple of subs, and I went down to the bench. I think it was subs we'd made actually, and I didn't. Oh, I know what it was. Sorry, Russ. They'd given me a team sheet, but they'd not put numbers for the substitutes. Yeah. So I got all the substitutes, but no numbers. So who do you know who's going on if you don't immediately recognise somebody? And I went and spoke to Dave Conlon, who was on the bench there, and I said, Dave, who's going on? I'm sorry, there's no numbers on the sheet. So I fed that back to the club and said, look, we need a team sheet, fine, but we need a team sheet with subs numbers on. In actual fact, that Romanian game, the guy who sat next to me, was the Romanian press officer for their international team. Smashing guy. And we sat there, and he spoke very good English, and we had a little chat through the game, and I showed him that he needed the internet, he couldn't get through. It wasn't live streaming, but he was sending regular reports back to Romania about the game. And then they made some substitutions. And I thought, I said, I can't remember his name. I said, listen, you might as well do these. I said, because your Romanian's much better than mine. Anyway, I gave him the mic, and he did the substitutions for me. And then somebody afterwards said, oh, he did well with that. It didn't sound like you. He did well with those names, didn't he? I said, he did them.
Brilliant. On substitutions then. Oh, no, sorry, not substitution, reading out the lineup. The new scoreboard, has that not proved difficult, but you know when we've done the little graphic of the player and it sort of takes longer, because I know you do it 1, 2, 3, or as was. Has that proved difficult, or a bit of adapting again to sort of do it in time with the graphics?
It's proved difficult because I've not been used to it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to looking at my team sheet and reading it out in what I consider to be a measured way to give people a chance to cheer, clap, or whatever they want to do between me reading 3 out and number 5.
Yeah.
Now, what happened with the video is that it was far too slow. So I'm reading out, and the goalkeeper this afternoon is number 1, Ben Hinchliffe. There'd be a bit of a roar from the crowd, and then there's this pregnant silence, pregnant gap, until the next player came up, number 2, Kyle Noyle. Now I fed that back to the lads who do the video, and I said, look, it's too long.
Yeah.
There's too much, it's just stunted. It doesn't flow. I'm not saying we've got to rush through it, but it doesn't flow. You probably notice it has improved because they've redone it, and the gap between the players now, between the pictures and the names coming up, is slightly shorter.
Yeah.
So it does flow a lot better.
Yeah. No, it does. It was very noticeable though.
Yeah.
And we felt for you.
Yeah, it was awful. I was standing there and I think,
Was there a Wembley? Was it that bad at Wembley as well?
Oh, they let me down badly.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. It was their fault, seriously.
Right.
I missed Hinchliffe and I can't remember who was number. I think it might have been Carl Noyle, number 2. They were supposed to cue me in, and it never came.
Right.
And the cue was some particular piece of music, and by the time I got it, and I wasn't used to the scoreboard. I'm used to no scoreboard, no graphics, no videos. But it was more their fault than mine because the music, I just didn't recognise the music at all. But luckily the girl who was directing just pointed to me and I managed to catch up.
Right, excellent stuff. Yeah, because I think, I won't speak for every county fan, but certainly from the ones that I spoke to, they were saying, Wembley did you, basically. So everyone's on your side for that.
Yeah, I was disappointed in my own performance, to be truthful, because I missed that particular cue. But do you know something, Russ? In the morning we did 3 run-throughs with a totally empty stadium. I couldn't get my words out.
Right.
On my life. Nobody would believe it. I could not get my words out. 3 times I tried. Why? I have no idea.
I was going to say, was that the occasion? Or?
Well, I dried up. I started off and then dried up. I said to the director on the walk back to the seats, I said, I can't believe this is me. Never ever had an issue at all. Anyway, come the day, or come the time, it wasn't too bad apart from missing. They didn't cue me in on time, and they know they didn't, and I know why as well.
Oh right, maybe a story for another time.
Yes.
We'll finish off with a few questions from people that have written in.
Please do. Please do.
Some sort of quick fire, some maybe not. Are you ever worried about losing your voice?
No, I'm afraid not.
On that, do you have any quick remedies for sore throat? Someone's wrote maybe like a Lee Toddy or something like that to soothe the sore throat.
Never had a drink before the game ever.
Right. Oh, nice.
I can't afford to. No, I don't mean financially.
I was going to say.
No. I'm always absolutely.
Yeah.
I never ever had an alcoholic drink before any of the games that I've commentated on.
Brill. Someone did say that did the away fans once get locked in because they weren't advised to leave in the same way they were entered? I think that's a joke actually. I don't think that's ever happened, has it?
Not that I can recall.
No, I think someone's pulling my leg there.
Yeah, I don't think you because I've not announced the way to go out. No.
That's my Drew Peacock moment,
yeah.
I think.
I didn't. You think back to Tuesday night. I didn't actually announce the way the Reading players were going. Reading supporters were leaving.
Did you not?
No, I forgot. To be quite truthful, it was such a good game. I'll be quite honest. I was totally engrossed.
Should we? I mean, we're not far. Should we go and check if there's anyone still there?
Good one.
Do you get surprised when fans recognise you on holiday? Someone's mentioned that you get stopped a lot in Cyprus, I think, or something like this. And do you enjoy it, or is it a bind?
Not at all. I think I've got a place in Anglesey, so I spend a lot of time in Anglesey, and I use a pub down there called the Ship at Red Wolf Bay, which is quite a popular haunt.
Near Benlec?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And several people have come up to me. Everybody sort of knows me, but I don't know them.
Yeah.
And they say, I've usually got something county, wearing something county, and they'll come up and have a chat. And it's no skin off my nose. I think it's great, the club, it promotes the club. In fact, Tuesday night, I was comparing, doing Steve Bellis's job, and a guy came through the doors to come and take part in the pre-match hospitality. Don't know his name, and he said, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm all right, thanks. I was just on the door with Tony Hancock and Lisa, meet and greet that time."
Yeah.
And he said, "Last time I saw you," he said, "we were at the Ship at Red Wolf Bay." I said, when was that? He said, 18 months ago. I said, yeah, that'll be right. You know. So no, it doesn't offend me at all.
All right, good.
I'm happy to talk about county to anybody.
Brilliant. What's your go-to pie at county?
Well, what a vast improvement there is in that.
Yeah,
I mean, they're phenomenal.
Yeah,
They really are.
The whole catering's just gone up a notch.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really is. And of course, I don't enjoy it now, but the hospitality side of it as well. I've met the chef there the other night, John. I've met him a couple of times. He's a real jovial chap. And we've got a chef back called Rick Slater, who was with us many, many years ago, moved on, he's come back, and he was phenomenal at the time. But the food is absolutely first class in my opinion.
Yeah.
Pie, I'll have a meat and potato usually. They're too big. My wife and I share half each.
Do you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, final question to wrap up. Are you considering retiring anytime soon, or can we expect many, many more years of KB?
I'd like to think so, Russ. Why would you give up something that I've done for 42 years and enjoyed? The majority of it has been a tremendous ride. Been through the hard times, the bad times, and now the good times. So let's enjoy it, and hopefully I can keep going for a few more years. I'm here for as long as they want me.
Brilliant. I think that's a brilliant way to end. KB, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Cheers.
No problem at all. Thank you, Jimmy.